Big swings.
Well, here it comes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow! In your life, have you seen anything like that?
Big moments.
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer.
All the news, all the views.
The career Grand Slam belongs to Corey Webb.
Welcome to the PGA Golf Club.
And welcome to another edition of the PGA Golf Club. Adam White and Brendon Goddard are with you as always, and we're also joined by Matt Griffin, who plays his golf at the moment on the Japanese tour. He's in town for a week, so we thought we'd grab him to talk about what it's like to play on the Japanese tour. Firstly, we welcome in Brendon Goddard. Brendon, welcome.
Whitey.
And Matt Griffin, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We're really looking forward to having a chat to you. In fact, we're going to do this pretty much straight off the top because we have got Cam Smith to join us, who's having a week in Australia before heading back to Asia, getting ready for what is going to be such a busy time for him. He's got the PGA to defend up on the Gold Coast. He's going for 3 in a row. Also the President's Cup and the Australian Open. And we're going to catch up with Campbell Rawson as well, who won the PGA, the Victorian PGA, down at Cape Schanck on the weekend. A really interesting story because his background is not what you would say is a conventional professional golf sort of upbringing, if you like. And as always, we'll have Craig Spence join us later on as well. But just playing golf in Japan, Matt, what's it like? Because we think of you almost needing chairlifts to get up some of the fairways. It's such a hilly environment a lot of the time, all the rain that we have in Japan. What's it like?
It's definitely very different to what we have back home in Australia. It's I love it. It's we get to see all the parts of Japan really. See all the different cultures up there, places, and a lot of really different style courses. You go from one week a really hilly course with OB stakes everywhere to and quite open golf course the next. So it tests every part of your game, and it's we really enjoy it.
So I'm going to set up. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and then BJ, you can go for your life. But
Okay,
just to get
a
a visual sort of feeling as to what it's like. How many events are there every year? And the season seems to start quite late and then goes through quite late into the calendar year.
Yeah, so we start the domestic Japan events start the week after the US Masters each year.
Yep.
And then we sort of run right through till early December with the JT Cup. They've a break in the middle of the year when most of the monsoons are meant to be. And they have early in the season we have an event in Singapore that kicks the season off with the co-sanction with the Asian Tour.
So how many events are there and how many would you choose to play over the course of the year?
This is about 24, 25 events usually on the schedule, and I'll play sort of 19 to 20 of those.
And is it difficult because you're still based in Melbourne to sort of head up and come back, and then obviously Japan, it's not like playing on the US PGA Tour where you've got the English language or a fair few tournaments on the European Tour. How challenging is that at times?
It's actually really easy. It's the great thing about Japan is it's the same time zone, or basically the same time zone, so there's no jet lag to deal with. The travel, it is a long way to go. You essentially probably it's a 10-hour flight from Tokyo back to Melbourne, so you're looking at sort of 15 hours or so travel-wise, but I'll come home at this stage of the year. We're really, really busy, so I went up for 3 weeks, came home for a week, up for a couple, back, so it's tough schedule that way, but it's nice to be able to get home and see my young family, so it works. Whereas with the US and Europe, you really can't do that.
So you've been on Japan tour now for quite a while. Is it the tour you want to play on? Do you want to go perhaps try Europe, the PGA Tour? Why did you get into Japan to start with, and are you comfortable where you're playing at the moment?
Yeah, I'm really comfortable playing there. Obviously, as all golfers, we want to reach the highest level that you can. So if an opportunity presented to go to Europe or the US, I'd look to it. Through my early years in golf, I went to the PGA Q school and missed out in Europe as well. And then Japan I had an exemption through the final stage, so it was a good opportunity to get there. And fortunately got my card about 5 years ago. And really, it took a few years to really sort of get myself established and playing good golf in Japan, but the last few years have been great. So I'd only leave Japan if I was to win a co-sanctioned European Tour event or play well enough to get into some PGA Tour events and then earn your card that way. I wouldn't go back to a Corn Ferry Tour it is now or that.
Yeah.
So, Matty, you talked about the golf courses being one of the things, but kind of where's the Japan Tour at in terms of, I understand there's actually really good ranking points, and we know Brendon Jones, who's been there for a long time, who's had a really successful career, but there's opportunities there to build a kind of pathway into the US Tour and potentially majors. Yeah,
if you play well enough, I always think about the top 2 or 3 guys on the order of merit through the year will have had to earn enough ranking points through their results to get sort of into that top sort of 50, top 75 in the world, which then creates those opportunities through the US. So I've sort of looked at it. If you can have a good enough year that way, that's a really good way to do that, instead of, I guess, going back at, well, I'm 36 now, so to go back and to get to the PGA Tour through the Corn Ferry Tour would probably be a little bit hard, or probably not harder, but harder financially.
Yep. And what about the Japanese golfers and the culture, and how do they embrace you as a golfer and the tour itself?
It's great. The Japanese are such a friendly people, and they love. I mean, you see with the Zozo Championship this week, the crowds are unbelievable. We don't get those sort of we don't sort of get those sort of crowds, but you get a really good reception. They're hospitable. They might cheer a little bit louder for the Japanese boys, but they give you a nice clap, and they're not trying to put you off or any of those type of things. So. And
what about some of the superstars that are on the Japan Tour that I'm always interested in how they're treated, and Ryo Ishikawa's. Yeah,
well, I mean, I liken Rio to a bit like Greg Norman when I was growing up in Australia. In Japan, he just draws you go to a golf tournament, if you're paired with Rio, you've got 90% of the gallery that's there following you. He's got that real draw to him. He's a lovely guy. He's, for someone who's had so much adulation through his life, he's just a normal guy, which is great. He's really good with the press, and he's been really important for the Japanese tour the last couple of years, because the market up there is difficult, so they're struggling holding on to some events, and having Rio it's great for all of us players.
Because a lot of people would wonder where he's gone, because he's
absolutely
at such a young age, who's broke onto the US tour, had a pretty immediate impact, and then kind of missing. He's played in President's Cup before.
Yep.
And we were talking about him not long ago that he's gone back to Japan and probably arguably earning more money and playing golf courses he recognised, feel comfortable in his hometown. Now he's playing really good golf, I believe.
He struggled. He struggled a bit last year and then early this year, and then he through the middle he's had a great run. He won 2 times in a row, and then he's been in the top 5 or 10 pretty much every week since then. And I actually think he's a sneaky President's Cup chance, because he's moving up. And
I know Jeff and him get along well. Jeff was, I know he's in the discussions, but Jeff and he got along really well last time. I think the President's Cup was here. Rio played. And it was kind of Jeff's role to kind of look after him, mentoring him. So they've got a great relationship. So I think Jeff speaks highly of him, and has been to Ernie as well. So I think he's right in the mix.
But there is a bit of a mystique about the Japanese tour. We don't hear a lot about it. And you were sort of saying before, BJ, that there is a lot of money up for grabs on Japan. And it's always seen as, it's a good tour up there. But we don't know much about it. I mean, how many people do go and watch on a weekly basis? Is it in the newspapers or online or on TV as much as, say, it would be if it was here in Australia? Yeah, it's pretty. It's big on TV, and you get good crowds. It's probably, imagine, the Australian Open each week. Really, that's probably right. Okay,
what it is. It's, I guess, the frustrating thing a little bit for us as players is the Japan tour has very much been insular.
Yes,
They haven't really looked outside with broadcast deals, those type of things, and the tournaments are run a lot by the TV stations over there, so they produce golf a bit differently to what we do here. It's a 6 or 7 hole package on a Sunday, comes on for an hour and a half, and then it kind of goes. So it's very different to anywhere else in the world. Where you look, the Asian tour has its broadcasts that they spread all around the world, where Japan could just as easily do that themselves, but they, up until now, they haven't. With the market getting tougher, maybe they'll look to do that in the near future.
We saw just in the recent tournament in Japan about the weather delay, and they ended up pretty much missing a whole day because of rivers literally going down the fairways, and then they play the next day. But that's not an uncommon occurrence. Take us through a day when one of those monsoons hit, or just heavy rain hits a golf course. Typhoon.
It's quite incredible that I've played across the world, and I don't think I've ever lost a full day's play. But every year in Japan, you can guarantee you'll lose 3 to 4 days a year at least, and it's just wiped out. That we had the recent Bridgestone Open. They had Typhoon Haggadas, which was probably the biggest typhoon Japan's had for years and years, and it created a lot of devastation. But pretty much the tournament was cancelled on Friday night.
Right.
They didn't even bother turning up to the course. They got rid of all the infrastructure, and you went to the convenience store on Friday night, got your supplies for the next couple of days, and bunkered down. So
you mentioned before they had a typhoon 2 days ago at the Zozo, but you said there's been 20, be like the 20th typhoon they've had this kind of typhoon season already.
Yeah, 20 this year, and I think with where Japan's placed in the world, with the sea temperatures getting hotter, it's just going to get worse and worse. So they sort of come up out through the Pacific and just go straight over across the island. So there's really nothing they can do to avoid it.
And the golf course is draining so well. Is it set up for that because they're expecting that sort of thing, so they have to do that, or is it just they're really good modern golf courses?
Yeah, they just have to, because they have in Japan, through that Haggadas, they had almost twice Melbourne's annual rainfall in 24 hours. So, and you get that quite regularly. So there's definitely no drought problem in Japan.
Unbelievable. Tell us about that story about when the earthquake hit when you were playing. This is a couple of years ago now, because I think this is an amazing story.
Yeah, well, I remember on the tee. We're on the tee at Shishido Hills, and one of the caddies, there was this kind of bit of a roar in the trees, and he kind of just thought, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's an earthquake coming." And we're standing on the tee, and the ground started to shake, and you're kind of thinking, "What's this?" And there's a decent amount of gallery around, and the earthquake stopped, and I'm kind of thinking, "Geez, that was unusual, and that was a bit big. What are people going to do?" And they're just sitting down, and no one batted an eyelid.
Earthquakes,
unbelievable.
Don't blink an eye, and typhoons where they get twice the annual rainfall in Melbourne in 24 hours, and wake up the next morning, everything's back to normal.
And we actually,
most of the time, respectively.
It almost feels like the Truman Show.
Well, through that Haggadas, about 10 o'clock at night, when it was peaking, the typhoon, we actually had an earthquake as well. So I was on the phone to my wife at the time, and I started to feel the room shake, and I'm thinking, geez, that wind's getting up a bit stronger. And then it kept shaking and shaking more, and we realised, oh, yep, it was actually an earthquake. So it all happens up there. Now,
how's it been for you? You've only recently become a dad for the first time with a little baby boy born. Has that changed you at all as a golfer? Is it harder for you to now go away, or do you feel you're playing for more than just two people now, yourself and your wife, and now you got a child, that it's changed your outlook on your golf? Yeah, it's changed it. Changed it a lot, really. Like I think it's good in a way that you're playing for, when you go away, that you are, I'm here to work, and you can't be you're not away wasting your time. Yep. You've got to be out there to do something. And I think it also gives you perspective outside of golf, in that, look, if you have a bad day on the golf course, it's just a bad day. You've got more important things to do when you're home. But it also makes it's very hard. I know I'm leaving Sunday for 5 weeks, and the amount that he's changed over the 2 weeks that I've been away, and it's been nice being home the last week and a half. He's really he's doing he's smiling and really growing that sort of attachment. So the more he grows up, the harder it'll get. Yeah, absolutely. Now it's good that you're coming this week, because it's quite topical with golf in Japan, because Tiger Woods has come back and played. He hasn't played for ages because he had these injury issues, BJ, but he's gone on and won wire to wire. And I mean, it creates all sorts of questions now as to, well, he almost has to play now in the President's Cup as the playing captain, and it just adds yet another layer to the President's Cup here in Australia, because I can't see how he just can't play from now. Well, we're the beneficiaries, aren't we? The Australian and Melbourne residents, that because he did come out a while ago and has almost teased us that he's
where he crossed out the line that said captain, President's Cup captain to President's Cup playing captain, and so someone told me the other day it's never happened before. There's never been a President's Cup playing captain. So how the logistics work with who's making the calls on who plays who and who pairs with who, and does that change? Does Freddie Couples and the other assistants then totally take over, and how much will Tiger play? It adds so much kind of speculation and interest now in it. And of course, when Tiger's playing in any event, he's going to create more interest and sell more tickets. So from a PGA Tour perspective, of course they want him to play. So you can imagine their conversation behind the scenes saying, well, Tiger, now you've won. Now you're like, it's a foregone conclusion. You have to pick yourself, and we want you to pick yourself. So, and I heard a comment the other day. He said, I think last time he commented, he was like, well, I'll sit down with my team and my teammates and ask them there. And it's like, really, mate? Who's going to turn around and go, JT's going to turn and go, no, Tiger, mate, I don't reckon you can play, mate. You're taking up another guy's spot. Like, who's going to have that? No one's going to say that. They're going to go, yeah, mate, you're playing. So I would suggest that it's almost a lock-in for him to play. So
now that he won, if he, as long as he stays fit, he plays. Because you can lock that in right now, which is great, fantastic for the event.
I think for memory, his next event is his own event. He's got a bit of a gap now.
Yeah.
Before, and we said we might be wrong on this, but his own event the week or two prior to the President's Cup coming over here. So,
and virtually the whole team is playing in that event in the Bahamas or somewhere in the West Indies, and they all get on a plane and come out to Australia.
Yeah. So he's got a bit of time now to prepare, iron out some creases. You'd argue there is any creases, but work on his body, his fitness, all that kind of thing leading into the President's Cup. So you'd argue now that he's in a really good spot, not only to play, but to get even better before it actually comes.
Well, that's exactly right. And the two things to come out of him winning the Zozo Championship was the strength of the field. If you look at the top 10, there's Tiger Woods, Hideki Matsuyama, who really pushed him even when they had to come back this morning to finish things off. McIlroy finished third. Woodland, Ben Arn, Schauffele, Horschel, Lowry, Poulter, Keegan Bradley, Patrick Reed, Justin Thomas, Paul Casey, Jason Day, they all finished. Tommy Fleetwood. This is a very strong field. Yeah. Those players all finished in the top 25. He held them at bay for 5 days, which has to give him a lot of confidence.
And coming off
no golf,
a low base practice.
If you watched him on Monday in the skins, you would not have thought he was a chance, because I watched the first part of that, and Tiger was. He looked very rusty. He was not even close. His playing partners were laughing at him half the time. But
that's a great point, because that was the other thing I was going to say, is that when you watched him play this week, it looked like the swing of 20 years ago, and he had all the tricks and was doing things with his body that we thought was past him. He looked a new man.
His putter's back too, let's be honest. So
yeah, well, that's a good point.
Bombs and looks more comfortable over, and that's something he would have been able to practice a lot. Having knee surgeries, you can stand over a putt, and practice a lot. So,
but he looked more dynamic, if this makes sense. He looked more dynamic watching him this week than when he won the Masters earlier in the year. Well, I'm not saying he sort of it was a grind, but he looked 20 years ago watching him this week, and that's exciting.
He did, but it might have been a blessing in disguise, because knee injury, surgery on that gives him another 6 to 8 weeks to rest his back, work on a bit of stuff, treatment on that, and then his knee injury wasn't that severe. Clear out some meniscus, had that a couple of times, so there shouldn't be any issues long term with that, or long term there might be, but in the immediate future there shouldn't be. So it's kind of blessing in disguise, being able to allow his body to relax. Went away on holiday with his kids, long holiday, extended holiday, which he otherwise wouldn't have done or have done in the last 25 years, so seems to be in a pretty good space.
You just have to, if he stays fit, he's a legitimate chance to challenge Jack's record.
Yeah.
I mean, probably his fitness is probably the biggest hurdle that he's got, because it shows this week playing against that strength of field that he's kind of done what he did 10, 15 years ago, where he'd sort of win kind of half easily.
Yeah. What I love is everyone's now they've started talking about the Masters next year already. Oh, if Tiger keeps playing like this, everyone else would be kind of pushing it uphill to compete with Tiger at the Masters. It's all about the Masters next year. It's awesome, and it's like, what are we? 6 months out from
booking tickets to go?
So booking tickets. So
exactly.
And as Australians and Melburnians, you should be booking your tickets if Tiger continues to play with this. Lucas Michelle will be playing, a fellow Metro member. So start booking your tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we need to take a break because Cameron Smith, one of Australia's best golfers, he has got a massive summer coming up here in Australia, and he'll join us next on the PGA Golf Club.
RSN Podcast, all your favourite RSN shows and loads of new programs. You can listen or download wherever, whenever. And now we're on iHeartRadio, the world's #1 radio and podcast app.
RSN Podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts and at rsn.net.au. And now on iHeartRadio. It's free at your app store or head to iHeart.com.
And welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. This week, it's a very special week because we get to talk to Cam Smith, who is one of Australia's best young golfers, and in fact, not best young golfers, just best golfer, full stop. And it's a very busy time coming up. The Australian Open, the PGA, as he's going for 3 in a row, and also the President's Cup. And he's coming off the back of a really good performance just recently in Korea on the PGA Tour. And he joins us this morning. Cam, thanks very much for your time.
No worries, guys. Thanks for having me.
Now, how do you peak at the right time? It's such a long year for you on the PGA Tour. You played 23 times on the 2018-19 schedule. You've already played a handful of times on the new schedule, knowing what's ahead in Australia to end the year.
I'm not sure, really. Coming back home always kind of gives me a little bit of a motivation. So, and it's always a good time down here. I always have family and friends around. So, that's probably the biggest thing for me is just to see everyone and try and play some good golf.
I know I've asked you this before about how comfortably it sits with you when you come down, being now not just a player like so many that play on tours all around the world and then come back to Australia, to be one of the headline acts. Are you getting more comfortable and getting used to that thought?
It's not much different to how it was 2 or 3 years ago. Just a little bit more maybe attention from the media and a few fans and stuff. But yeah, I love it, mate. I love coming back and trying to give back to Australian golf.
Before BJ and Matt ask you some questions, just your overall thoughts on the year you've had so far?
Probably not my best stuff. Especially through the middle of the year there, I was fighting a few things technically, and it's always hard to get back to where you can be when you can't trust something. So it's been a pretty busy off season, lots of practice. Just trying to get back to, where it was beforehand. And I feel as though it's making good progress. So hopefully just in time for the Aussie stuff, I'll be good to go again.
Have you felt like you kind of mentioned it there, turn the corner of the last or good result at the CJ Cup in Korea, and such gets a good field? Yeah,
that was a good week. Probably still didn't have my best stuff, with my driver and maybe a few longer iron stuff. Still a little bit dodgy, but played through it. My short game that week was really good, and I putted really well as well. So lots of positives to take from that. Definitely a bit of a confidence booster, and
Before we get on to talking about President's Cup and the Oz PGA, I just want to. You've had 2 top 10s in majors now, but you obviously your career's been trending in the right direction. But what do you feel like you need to do, and where does your game need to go to start competing more regularly in majors?
I think we're on the right track now with the longer stuff. I think if that almost gets in line with the rest of the game, I feel like it's maybe potentially a little bit of a weakness right now. So I think stuff with the driver. And then that mid to long iron stuff needs to be a little bit sharper, and then I'm sure I'll be right back up there. My wedges and my chipping and putting all feels really good, and it has all year. So just stay on top of that stuff and make the longer stuff a bit better.
And Cam, with the new season starting so early on the PGA Tour, how important is it to get a result like Korea to, I guess, set your schedule up, getting some FedEx Cup points early and so forth?
Yeah, it's pretty important time of the season now. When I first come out, it was probably not as important as it is now. I think we got like 10 events before the end of the year. So, it's good to get a result like that and kind of get in a bit more of a comfortable position for the rest of the year.
And how are you now setting yourself up, especially with the President's Cup and the going for number 3 with the PGA? It's an important time. How are you setting your plans forward to be best prepared for that?
Yes, I'm playing in China next week, and then I'll have 2 or 3 weeks off. That was kind of planned so we can try and nail this, technical stuff, and then straight into the Aussie Open. So, it'll be 3 good weeks of really solid practice. I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. So I'm looking forward to the challenge there.
We're lucky enough on the PGA Golf Club to be joined by Cameron Smith.
So just jumping ahead, Cam, let's talk about the President's Cup. Your first, well, you've played team golf before, obviously as an amateur and Eisenhower Trophy, World Cup in a short team format, but President's Cup, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Having 11 other guys that you're trying to play for, and one ultimate prize at the end. I love team sports. I grew up playing, footy and cricket and stuff like that. And
the other footy, isn't it, though? The passing,
yeah,
the throwing game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it gets me a bit fired up, and I love the team environment as well.
Have you managed to get together as a team? We saw you guys, quite a large contingency of you guys in Korea, I think, wishing Ernie Els happy birthday. But have you managed to get together as a group and spend some time together?
Yeah, that's probably one thing that Ernie's done a really good job of, trying to get all the guys together and, getting to know each other. We've had a few dinners, a few meetings and stuff where we've gone over some really basic, maybe potential pairings and stuff like that, but nothing too in-depth. I'm sure all that stuff's going to come over the next, month or so.
Before I throw you to Griffin,
he has done a really good job of getting everyone together.
Before I throw you to Griffin, what about the golf course Royal Melbourne? You know it intimately. What's your history there?
I've played a couple tournaments there. Probably played 10 or 12 rounds around there, so I know it pretty good. All the courses down there are so good, and they're all very similar in so many ways. So we're all aware of what we need to do when we get down there.
And Cam, as a professional golfer, we have different courses that we like during the year. Obviously, Royal Pines is one that you love, being a back-to-back champion there. What's it about the golf course there that really gets you, that you like showing up for?
Yeah, I like the golf course, I think, which I've spoken about before, is probably more the stuff off the course, maybe, that I love. It's only about 45 minutes away from where I grew up, so all my mates come down for the weekend. The family's there the whole week, so I basically get off the golf course and have a couple of beers and have a few laughs and get to catch up with everyone. So I think just the kind of relaxed mindset, just frees me up on the golf course, and the golf course suits me as well. It's a course where you need to hit your shorter irons really good and give yourself as many opportunities as you can. So it's right up my alley.
You talked about a relaxed mindset that frees you up on the golf course. Is that something you've kind of implement from week to week on the PGA Tour and every time you play?
Yeah, it is. It is something that I do try. It's obviously hard having some weeks where you're just sitting in your hotel room there by yourself. So, but it's definitely there. I know that it makes me a better golfer, so I try as best as I can to copy it.
We talked to Cameron Champ on the program last week, and he's looking forward to coming down for his first visit to Australia. Do you think it's a golf course with the length that he's got will suit him?
Potentially. There's a lot of hazards where like bunkers and stuff where he'll be able to blow it straight by it. It's still you still need to hit it relatively straight. There's hitting out of the rough down there isn't too fun. So, but I'm sure he'll have a good week. He's just won Napa a few weeks ago, so he's obviously in good form. So another good player in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Cam is shaping up as Cam v Cam, so it's Smith v Champ. You know that, and we're going to run with that for the next month or two until the tournament's up. So you better be up for it.
I'm looking forward to it.
And just finally, we talked at the start of this chat about how it's a long year and you've got all these really important tournaments at the end of the year. When do you start to focus on the President's Cup, the Australian Open, going for 3 in a row in the PGA? Is that something that's in the back of your mind from the start of the year, or it's something that you can't really focus on too early?
Yeah, I kind of go just week to week. I try not to change my routine too much week to week. Try to get in there on the Monday sometime and do some practice and just kind of tick all the boxes. And then when Thursday comes around, I'm as best prepared as I can be. So, it's just try and treat it exactly the same as every other week, and hopefully it turns out.
Because when is your off season? I mean, we often think of it as it's around Christmas because that's when most people have their holidays. But considering there wasn't a major played since, July, and the new season on the PGA Tour starts so early, when do you have your biggest time off?
It seems I don't think I'm going to have too much time off this year. Maybe, it's usually right at the end of the year where when the PGA finishes, I have a couple of weeks off and put down the clubs, and haven't really been able to do that this year. So it's been a long year. Yeah,
I can imagine. Look, we really appreciate you joining us today on the PGA Golf Club. Good luck with the big events to come here in Australia, and we look forward to catch up with you when you arrive.
Cool, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cameron Smith joining us there. Ahead of, as we said, such a busy time as he goes for 3 in a row in the PGA Championship. He's also got, obviously, the President's Cup and the Australian Open. It'd be a nice trophy to put on the mantelpiece alongside those two PGAs. We'll be back with more in a minute.
Future Golf gets you playing at amazing courses. Future Golf gets you an official golf handicap. Future Golf is the future of golf. It makes you part of Australia's greatest golf community, playing free rounds at partner courses, enjoying lessons, awesome golf events, mini golf and X-Golf. Whether you're a beginner or a golf addict, Future Golf lets you get into the game your way, all from as little as $24.95 a month. And because you're listening to this show, the PGA Golf Club, you'll save 10% on your membership. Just enter the code PGA Podcast as one word when you register. Got that code? PGA Podcast. Head to futuregolf.com.au/join. Future Golf. Play your way.
Yes, welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. Adam White, Brendon, Goddard and Matt Griffin with you this week. Now, one of the big talking points of the weekend in golf was the Victorian PGA, which was played down at Cape Schanck. Brendon, you were there for the week with the PGA.
PGA TV.
Tough weather conditions, it's fair to say, for most of the tournament.
Well, we had the best of the Melbourne weather, to be honest, and Cam will back this up. But Thursday, Friday, terrific conditions. Come Saturday, it literally was Arctic. You swear if you didn't know where we're at or listening to our broadcast on PGA TV that you think we were in Ireland. It was Scotland. It was seriously unbelievable. So we'll chat to Cam shortly. But and then Sunday it was more favourable scoring conditions, which it actually turned out to be a pretty good day and escaped like the forecast looked really poor for Saturday and Sunday, and I think we came out on the better end of it, to be honest.
Now, Campbell Rawson has an amazing story to tell about what happened over the course of the 4 days down at Cape Schanck, but also just his journey to become a professional golfer. Campbell made the cut on the number and didn't think he was actually going to make the weekend play when he finished his second round, and ends up having the lowest score of anyone in the field on the Saturday and then doing it again on the Sunday to win with the lowest score on the final round. So it was an amazing couple of days of golf, and Campbell Rawson joins us on the PGA Golf Club. Campbell, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on, guys.
What an extraordinary weekend you had. Take us through that Friday afternoon when you finished your round. Did you think about making plans to get back to Melbourne or head back home, or were you thinking that you were still a chance to actually make the weekend action?
Yeah, I hold about a 7-foot putt for par on 18 to get in at 1 over total. And I thought at the time, with the way the wind was blowing, it could be 2 over, but possibly go back to 1. And about a half an hour after I finished, the wind just totally dropped out, and Friday afternoon was probably the pick of the conditions for the week. And all of a sudden I went from, I think it was T32 into about T45, and there was still sort of 8 to 10 guys out on course that could affect the cut line, and it looked like it was going to get pretty tight there. So I was grateful to sort of just sneak through in the end, and from there it's kind of a release of pressure. You can't go backwards when you make the cut on the number. So it freed me up a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. So you made mention that your kind of attitude changed after the second round, and I saw you late. I think it was late in your third round on the 15th. I saw you with Zach Murray and Ash Hall. And you're going quite well at that stage, little did I know. But you said your attitude changed, you became a bit more aggressive in your third round, and that you tried to carry that through Sunday.
Yeah, the third round was, as hard as the wind was, the PGA did a really good job of setting the course up so that it was still playable. I know there was a few instances where balls were sort of blowing around on the greens, but for the most part it was pretty good, given we were looking at 70-kilometre-hour winds. So with the flags and slightly easier positions on the greens, I was able to hit some shots that played off the slopes down there, and still, got access to sort of 6 to 10 footers about half a dozen times. So I played more aggressively in terms of going at the flags, but off the tee it was still just get it and play and give yourself a chance.
Have you always been a good wind player, Campbell?
I'd say so, yeah. I grew up in New Zealand in a pretty windy spot, and then I live in Adelaide, down by the beach at Glenelg, and play there. I've played there for the last 10 years, and that gets pretty windy too. So I think historically I've probably had a bit of a ball flight which is a bit too high and spinny, and I got some new irons a couple of weeks ago which I thought were probably a bit too low spin, but it worked out a treat for this week.
It's an extraordinary story, Campbell, about how you've become a professional golfer. Tell us or share us the story of how it all unfolded as a young guy from New Zealand that almost became an Australian rules footballer from being based in New Zealand to then becoming a professional golfer.
Yeah, so basically I played basketball and soccer all my life at a relatively high level, and I got to 18, 19, and I'd had enough of the training, to be honest, and decided my dad had played a little bit of Aussie rules football when he'd lived in Melbourne for a short stint, and suggested, why don't I have a go? And so in Auckland there's approximately 8 clubs, and it's equivalent to about a Div 3 or Div 4 comp across the SANFL or the VFL. And it's great because it's played rugby off season, so all the rugby players play to keep fit, and so it is relatively competitive. From there, just fell in love with the game quickly, loved the variety of it all, and so managed to sneak into a New Zealand side which played against the Victorian age group team, and from there it was suggested, why don't I have a crack at seeing if I could make it. And so lined it up with South Adelaide, and they thankfully took me in, and after a bit of a brief trial period, and said they'd be happy to give me a crack. And from there, I realised pretty quickly I wasn't up to it. Playing against guys who have played all their life, and Brendon would know, you can get tackled from anywhere. Just the awareness around the ball, that it's like an innate sense for those guys who've played all their lives. So that was really what sort of let me down, and so from there, after a couple of ankle injuries, I decided to pack it in. And
just before you continue, so you moved to South Australia just for footy, and what was your golf kind of career or ambitions, or before you actually moved to South Australia?
Yeah, so have always played golf. Always loved it. Always in the back of my mind, would love to have made a career out of it. And the opportunity to move to Adelaide to play football was basically two-pronged. It was to get me into Australia for starters, because I had a finance degree and wanted to work in sort of the stock markets or finance industry. And Australia being a much bigger market than New Zealand, that was going to be a good opportunity sort of anywhere over here. And then obviously the football, well, I could have a crack at that, and if it didn't pay off, I always knew that I was 21 at the time, and there was still plenty of time for me to pursue golf as well. So it all sort of fell into place with the football. There's a couple of contacts at the club there that got me a job at Taylor Collison Stockbrokers, and while I was playing the football and just playing some amateur golf, I worked there full time for 5 years as an analyst, and still do some work for them now. So it's all worked out quite nicely, and essentially when I got to 26, 27, I decided I've got to have a go at the golf. I was playing relatively well from an amateur sense of view, but I obviously knew it was a big step up. But if I didn't have a go, I thought I'd get to 35, 40 years old and probably regret never having a crack. So it's obviously panned out relatively well after yesterday's result, and hopefully can continue from here.
And the great thing about winning on tour is it frees you up to have a crack overseas. And have you got plans now to go to any Q schools or play anywhere outside Australia?
Yeah, so I've been playing PGA Tour China the last 3 years. This year I had pretty limited status, so they actually had a number of more members, so I only got one start up there this year. I went to European Tour Q School probably 6 weeks ago, and missed out by a couple of shots of getting through the first stage. And really, from now, I'm probably going to be looking at the Asian Tour. So I think the Q School for that is mid-January. So that's probably the plan from here.
So, Campbell, just take us through the last couple of years. Obviously, it's tough going to try and stay afloat financially and keep the dream alive. How many times did you think it's just not meant to be and you almost gave it up?
I haven't got to the point where I thought it's time to give up, but the last sort of 2 months I've definitely been considering my options. I'm 31 now. It's a difficult game to play travelling if you want to sort of have a family or hold down a job elsewhere as well. So I was considering my options for next year. But about 3-4 weeks ago, had a chat with, pretty honest and open chat with my girlfriend and also with my coach, and basically said, right, I'm just going to focus on the Aussie summer stuff, really put in some good processes, and just see what happens from there. Not going to think about the future and what it all means. And that's the thing I'm probably most pleased about over the weekend, was just being able to focus on the job at hand, not worry about what else would come from it, whether it was a good performance or a bad performance. And so that's something I'll probably take forward into the next few events, is just really sort of trying to stay in the moment.
I mean that adds even more context to what you're able to do. You've got the wily veteran Marcus Fraser breathing down your neck, Michael Sim, who won last week, who's won so many times over his career, and you're able to hold your nerve. Just a simple question, how proud are you of yourself?
Yeah, it's up there. I'm very, very proud, actually. As you say, those guys, I've played a little bit of golf with Michael, and he's a hell of a ball striker. He's got a great reputation for winning. Great bloke as well. And obviously, I sort of at the start of the day, he was the favourite. So I just kept reminding myself that you're the underdog. No one expects you to win. So just go out there and play. So yeah, it was really proud to be able to hold my nerve, but B, just putting in a good performance as well. So you can play well out here, as Matt will attest to. You can have great weeks in terms of scoring and still not win. You have to have things go your way, and hold a couple of shots the last 2 days, which you normally that kick in birdies, but there's 2 shots extra right there, which you wouldn't normally have had.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, Cam. Well, congratulations, and hopefully it's the fire starter for you, that there's many more good performances to come. Thanks for joining us on the PGA Golf Club.
Thanks very much, guys.
Campbell Rawson joining us there, winning down at Cape Shank over the weekend in Victoria. Now, talking about Victoria and golf, the Gippsland Super 6 is being played at your lawn, which is down in the Latrobe Valley in Victoria shortly. And you're a headline act, BJ.
Headline
Brendon
act.
Goddard.
Yes.
What's going on?
So myself and Marcus Fraser, and we kind of twist Jeff Ogilvy's arm to come down and play. He doesn't have much on before his first tournament of the summer, which is the Australian Open, I think. So, I'm from that area, obviously, Gippsland. I live 15 minutes away, or did live 15 minutes away, just out of Traralgon in Glengarry. So it's close to home. To be honest, I haven't been to Yulorn or Yulorn Golf Course in a long time. Haven't been to Yulorn Golf Course at all, actually, but haven't been to Yulorn at all.
Well, you don't play. You only play on the Sandbelt.
Yeah,
or
that's
Cathedral.
right.
That's about as far as you go.
Yeah. So sorry, been to Yulorn, but never been to Yulorn Golf Course. So don't know the golf course at all. But it's close to home and a good opportunity to play in a pro tournament, which I've played in a couple of pro-ams, but not so much as a tier 2. I think this will be for the boys tournament. So and playing the stroke round with the pros. So high expectations. I'm looking to try and make the cut, and but it should be good fun.
You're looking for a top 10.
Yeah, no, right. I know my limitations.
Squeeze
no,
into
I don't
that,
think you
into
do
the
know
top,
your limitations.
Squeeze into the Super 6, you never know what happens
Yeah,
on
right.
Sunday.
Match play. Use my pennant experience, albeit 1 year of pennant, but or my pennant record. And it's I think it's going to help me personally because I'm playing with Fraser and Jeff, which is like our normal Wednesday comp round at Peninsula. So that'll make me feel a little bit more comfortable and. So it should be good fun. So if you're out there, come down. It's not very often you get to see a US Open champion and
absolutely
7-time winner on the PGA Tour, a 2-time European Tour player, and Marcus Fraser. So all playing in the one group.
And
then there's me.
AFL veteran.
So if you're in Gippsland, you got some spare time on Thursday or Friday afternoon in particular, gets a couple of hours off work, come down and then. Hopefully see some good golf.
November 7 to 10 at the Yulorn Golf Club. And Matt, the Super 6 format, you've played it before. What do you think of it? Is it something that golf needs to do more of to change things up a little bit?
Yeah, I think especially in Australia we need to find some different formats to, I guess, spice it up and get a bit more interest in our domestic golf. So it's been a frustrating format for me. In the Perth Super 6, I seem to miss out by a shot every year, so haven't quite got there. But I think it's a really good fun format for people to go and watch, and there's a lot happening, and you can get some time between the rounds to do a few different things, and that's it'd be really exciting.
All right, so that is, as I said, November 7 to 10 at the Yulorn Golf Club, the Gippsland Super 6. We'll take a break, come back. Craig Spence is in the house, and he's got a very interesting topic for his coaching masterclass this week.
Everything you want to know about Aussie golf is in one place. PGA.org.au. This is the official site of the PGA of Australia. It's the one website loaded with all the tournament, course and player news. That includes the latest on the ISPS Hander PGA Tour of Australasia. The Find a PGA Pro directory will track down the pros near you. And here's where you can live stream golf's best on PGA TV, watching tournaments live, streaming replays, or watching the latest reports on Aussie golfers around the world. There are even video tips from the pros. So if golf's your game, this is your site. PGA.org.au from the Professional Golfers Association of Australia. Driving Australian golf since 1911.
And welcome back to the PGA Golf Club. But now we've got Craig Spence. He's come back in from the Albert Park driving range for his weekly segment. This is almost my favourite part of the show. We've had some big name guests.
You should be paying Spency.
Well, that's right. We've had some big name guests, but I've said this before. I talk to Craig and then I go to the school pickup and speak to all the dads about all the information that I've learnt from earlier on in the day.
That's happened once. Does that happen again?
It's 3 times.
Oh, so now it's a weekly.
It's a weekly.
I like it.
It's good.
I like it, mate.
It's like this meeting of the minds on a Monday afternoon.
Has a golf club come out of the car yet?
Hey?
No,
we've been using sticks and umbrellas as golf clubs at the moment. I haven't played golf for a long time, you know that. I've been off the scene. Anyway, it's not about me. Welcome.
Thanks, Adam.
This is a really interesting topic that you want to bring up because...
Yep.
Well, you tell us what it is first.
All right, we're going to talk about the hardest shot in golf. And I'm going to ask these fellas in a minute what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the long bunker shot. And a long bunker shot is not 150 metre shot.
I was going to ask for clarification on what a long bunker shot is.
A long bunker shot, because that's a normal shot that you just try and catch a little bit thin, and we can do that another day. The long bunker shot to me is the hardest shot in golf, and every pro I know of gets a bit squirmish. Griff, I want to get your thoughts in a second, but a 40 metre shot, maybe 30, 40, even up to 50 metres, especially if the bunker's at the front, say 20 yards short of the green, and then you've got a 30-metre green, and it's a back pin. So you know if you go long, you're bringing now an 8 into play, or a couple of chips behind the green. And you blokes, what are your thoughts on long bunker shots? Griffo, we'll start with you, then you, BJ. What do you think about long bunker shots when you get over it?
Well, rule number 1 is to try and avoid it in the first place.
Yes, true.
And then I guess when you get over it, I usually try and take a bit of loft off the club. So instead of going with your 60 degree, you might play with a normal, get a 52 or a pitching wedge, and so you don't have to hit the ball quite as hard, which I guess gives you a bit more margin for error.
Yep. And would you ever go down, before I get to you, BJ, would you ever go down to a 9-iron or a pitching or even 8-iron for that shot?
If it's a shallow enough lip, yeah, the less, in golf in general, the less loft you can take, the easier the shot. So it can be a little bit hard in the Sandbox traps because of the deep lips, but other parts of the world definitely.
Brendon, what do you do in a long bunker shot?
Yeah, you stole my thunder. So many years ago, a ex-aspiring pro, actually, Tom Prowse. Does that name ring a bell?
Yes.
Prowsey.
Yeah, he's a good player. Good player, Prowsey.
Taught me a shot with members at Yarra at exactly that, an 8-iron, 9-iron. And generally around sand belts, you got a run-up at the front of green. So to play that shot, because it's more predictable how it's going to react. So he taught me this shot one day, going back years ago, but you got to know how it reacts. So for that one, it like runs out. He told me at the time just to set up way left because of the bounce of the club, and it tends to come out straight right. But yeah, so if I've got the ability to run the ball up, then there's nothing in front of the green. I prefer to go with the 8 or 9-iron, and then I'll be interested to know how often you practice it, because who practices a 40-50 metre bunker shot? Let's be honest. So I don't really have any tricks because I don't practice it, and when I get in there, it's take less loft and then just try and make good contact and hope for the best.
No, you're right, and it's perfect how you say that, because a lot of people get in there and they actually don't have an idea what to work on. Like, what do I just hit it really hard? And when you do that, it generally comes out about 5 metres and stops, and you've got yourself, either you're still in the trap or you've got a significantly long chip or putt. Before I get to my tips on how to do long bunker shots, how would you adjust your setup for a long bunker shot? Would you do anything differently?
Probably compared to a shorter trap shot, I'd probably put the ball back in the stance just a little bit further, because with a short trap shot, you're trying to get the ball to come up on a better sand, come out pretty soft, whereas a long trap shot, you're looking at to come out with a bit more force. So if you get too much sand between the club face and the ball, you're just going to flub the ball out of the trap. You're not going to get the distance. So move it back a little bit. You do have to be careful you don't push it back too far, because if you get too much ball, then you'll be chipping back from the other side of the green.
So if you put the ball back in your stance, would you adjust your shoulders a little bit so that you don't hit the ball skinnier?
Maybe just a touch.
Yep. Yeah. What would you do differently, BJ, to your setup? Would you do anything differently?
If I'm playing that lower iron, like 8 or 9, I just kind of set up more open.
Yep.
I practiced that shot a little bit when he first taught me that shot.
Yep.
So, which I feel like it goes right, but not really. I said I don't. The only thing I really probably think about is don't try and get too steep on it, because you play that fat shot. So kind of feel like you're a bit shallower. Take it away a bit shallow to the ground, just to try and get that nice contact. So
I'm going to chime in here as a non-professional. There's 2 professionals and 1 nearly professional. Is there a distance where you go from hitting the ball out of the bunker to actually trying to hit the sand? So from 40 or 50 metres out, should you be trying to hit the ball, or are you still trying to hit the sand?
No, this is where.
And where's that limit where you go from one to the other?
That's a great question, and also BJ's segue with hitting shallow is a good segue for what I'm going to talk about here. When you get the longer bunker shot, you do have to hit closer to the ball, because you need that distance on the ball. If you hit it too far back, you're just going to fat it too much. But so essentially, if we think about the high soft lob spinner, right? You want to do everything the opposite to that. So if we're going to hit a spinner, we'd have the ball well forward. We'd have the face quite a bit open. We'd probably use our wrists, hinge the wrists and the club back sharply on the backswing, and and fold up really quickly after we hit the ball. And that would create height, spin. So the long bunker shot is the opposite in every regard to that. So what I like your idea, putting the ball a little bit back in your stance, Griffo. I think you take the 8-9 pitching wedge. You got to widen your stance. You've got to, if you're going to go the 8 or 9 iron, you aim a little bit left, put the ball back in your stance, open the blade so it's a little bit open and it's sitting back on its. Then what you need to do, so you're now down lower to the ground. A lot of people think if I open the club, it aims too far right. But if you lower your hands down to the sand, what that does is it aims the face more towards the stick. So once you get that wide, open the face, aiming a little bit left with your feet, you want to now swing a more shallow approach to the ball. You almost want to, so if we think about a high soft one is cutting under it and folding the arms up, we want to now take a wider swing, hit close to the ball, and a wider follow through, almost. So we're going to make our arc, if you like, a lot bigger than it would be if it was a really spinny shot. So it takes a lot of practice. One of the things I tell people is if you're going to go and practice in the bunker, you want to set up to the ball and with your hand or your club, draw a couple of lines out from where the ball actually sits. So once you've hit the shot, you can see where the ball was and you can see where your divot starts. And then you can start to say, well, okay, the ball's coming out a bit too soft. I'm hitting 3 or 4 inches too far back. And you can actually work on where your divot's starting. Now, if you're in a really thick bunker where you've got a lot of sand, you can hit a little bit further behind the ball and you'll have to hit harder. You'll have to hit quite firm because there's so much sand to get through. Would you agree with that, Griffo?
Yeah, and that's probably one of the important parts of a bunk shot's reading the lie, because depending on where you're playing, the lie changes. Heavier sand, lighter sand.
Yep.
Is the ball sitting down? Has it been raining?
Yeah.
All those type of things.
And if you consider we play on the Sandbelt or around Melbourne or even down the peninsula, when you get those sunny, hot, windy days, the sand bakes and the ground basically gets harder, and then you have that hard pan. So, BJ, what do you do when it's hard sand and it feels like the club's really bouncing off it? Would you still go with the 8 or 9 iron?
Oh, no.
you do what BJ does, just doesn't hit it in the bunker.
No,
exactly.
Does. No, I'm still trying to figure this out because that's one of your worst. Shula Leong was trying to teach us a shot at pennant training last year, which I needed to keep practicing in those hard pen where there's no sand, it's just firm, and that's one of your worst nightmares, particularly around sandbelts, particularly when you kind of short side yourself, and then you're like, I'm screwed anyway, and then now I've got no chance of getting it out. So I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you definitely got to hit it softer. And I think you can actually square the blade up. Do you ever try that, Griffo, where you square the blade more? Because it's so firm, if you open it too much, you blade the ball a little bit.
It bounces
into the back.
Get rid of some of your bounce.
Yeah, get rid of some of your bounce. You can use the toe a little bit because that sits flatter than the centre of your club. We're getting for our better players now, I think.
More technical,
the average punter just rolled his eyes and said, "You're kidding, aren't you? You think I'm really going to be able to use the toe or the heel of the club?"
I'm prepared to give it a try.
Yeah, you'll be taking divots at school out soon,
That's right.
mate.
Well, because I think the interesting thing is something that you raised before. I said I'm trying to come from the hacker angle. Is I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will understand exactly what I'm saying. Is that when you have that 50-metre shot or 40-metre shot, you take your lob wedge or your sand wedge, whatever you've got, and you really commit to it, and you play a really good bunker shot that goes 20 metres.
Yeah.
But you're not brave enough to play with that same sort of commitment when you are only 10 metres. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it goes up and drops down, and you're still 25 metres short of the green, but you've actually played a really good bunker shot. It's probably a lesson of how you could play them when you're closer to the green, but it's a lot harder to want to commit to it and have that full swing when you're so close to the green.
Well, I want to say to the listeners, it is the hardest shot. It's not like, oh, you told me that it didn't work. Well, it takes a little bit of luck, because you are guessing the lie to some degree. Dig your feet in, get wide, get low, so you can feel how much sand is actually there. Your feet are important in bunkers. I see people go in and they just stand there to start with, and they slip around a little bit. So get a really dig-in base, get wide, get low, get your hands low down towards the ground. I don't mean push your hands down the grip. I mean push the grip down towards the sand, and then you gotta pray a little bit.
And sometimes I think it's managing expectations as well a bit, because if we get a bad line of bunker, sometimes on those long trap shots, getting it on the green is actually a good shot for even the best players in the world. So whether it's 20 foot, 30 foot, it's a pretty good effort.
But would you say, Spency, for the average golfer, your first option should be the 8-9 iron pitching wedge as opposed to getting a more lofted wedge, because there is less room for error. It's more predictable in how it comes out. So that should be their first option. Yeah,
I think that's the best option. It's essentially going to make what would be a 10-metre carry with a sand iron be a 25-metre carry. And that's what you need, right? And you often need the ball to run when it gets on the green anyway. So, you definitely have to hit it hard. Yeah, definitely have to be committed to it and work on that spot behind the ball where the club's going to hit the ground with that open face. And don't fold up, don't spin the hands under it. You want to almost be shallow through it and have a nice wide follow through finish.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming in again this week, and
thanks,
we'll
boys.
Do it all again next week. Craig Spence with his golf tip of the week: long bunker shots. As he says, it's the hardest shot in the game. Matt, thank you also for coming in. Really appreciate it. Good luck for the remaining events in Japan. Hopefully you can finish strongly, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
And Brendan, see you next time.
It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. This is the PGA Golf Club. We'll catch you again next week. Club will 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 catch you again next week.